to ensure we get what we need.
Chair.
Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Chair, let me deal with a couple of issues that Phil Twyford has raised, because I think they're good questions that need to be asked. He first of all refers to section 14F, and he says the bill fails to deal with liability. It circumscribes the liability of BCAs, and no one is to step into the gap. And sir, what I want to say to Phil Twyford is that none of this comes into effect until the regulations bring it into effect, and I can give the member an absolute watertight assurance there's a couple of preconditions before that will happen. One of those preconditions is the number 4 bill, which has got all the consumer protection stuff in it that is needed, vitally needed, before we trigger this part. And also that we do have a proper licensed building practitioner base, because we do need the numbers. Now, I'm happy to report, based on my officials' report as of the 8th of February, we had 12,084 building practitioners through the licensing scheme already. That's just about exactly on track with the graph we had plotted for. We thought we'd need about 14,000 by the 1st of March, and we'll be near as damn it there with those numbers if that's back on the 8th of February. There is now a little bit of a bottleneck, because unfortunately, like a lot of people leaving their Christmas shopping till the 24th of December, a lot of skilled practitioners didn't put their application in until right near the 1st of March. But we're doing what I think are some practical things around that. Take, for example, a problem that's arisen with designers submitting their design but not yet being licensed as of the 1st of March. What we've found is that some local authorities are saying, you're not a licensed design, so you can't put a submission in for a consent. What we're now asking the local authorities, and Auckland Council told me yesterday they're already doing it, we're saying, look, as long as you prove that you've lodged your application to become a licensed practitioner, and it's in the process of being dealt with, then we'll take your application for this consent, we'll process it right through to the very end, and issue it the moment you show that you've got your licence. So it's actually going to get rid of that bottleneck, and I think that's... But I think the member's right, and I think Shane Jones was right before. This scheme won't work until we've got a really good-sized pool of licensed practitioners. But what we'll be able to then say to the consumer, as we do to members when you all, and I see you all on a Thursday night getting on board a 737, there isn't one of you, even Honi Harawira, as brave as he may be, would not be getting on a 737 if he didn't think that pilot up the front was licensed and was shown that he's a skilled, capable practitioner. Showing that he's a skilled, capable practitioner, and that's what we want to bring in. I want to refer to a couple of things that Andrew Williams raised, sir, too, because I think there's a bit of a dilemma here that all members are facing. First of all, there seems to be a school of thought that while local authorities kept all the control and had all the powers they've had previously, that kept the industry working well. And all I can say is that under all those strict rules that were in place, we ended up with the leaky home sale. So it wasn't the protection that people thought. In fact, it didn't provide anywhere near the protection, and I feel a great deal of sympathy for a lot of local authorities, because under joint and several, they ended up being the last man standing. They ended up being the one who had to carry the can for what might have been shoddy practices across the design, the construction, the whatever. And therefore, I actually would love to get back to holding local authorities accountable for only the bit that they do, and therefore if they do approve something that's not up to code, you should be pinged. But if they actually don't do anything wrong, and it's the builder or it's the roofer or the person doing the flashings where the water leaked in, the council should get away from that. But what I'd want to say to Mr Twyford is that Section 14F does not change the liabilities of the BCA. It simply describes the status quo, actually, exactly what's in the current Act. What BCAs are responsible for doing under the current Act, it says what they're responsible for. That is an application for a building consent that complies with the building code, and then Part 14A 2 building work has been carried out in accordance with it. And sir, I want to say that there's a good example for Leanne Dalzell to think about here, is that back in 1987, the Christchurch Council certified that the CTV building was up to code, and then inspected it, that the seeking the application for it to be built was up to code, and then after they did their inspections claimed the building was built to code. And we now know, after a very thorough and intensive investigation, that A, the plans put forward were not up to the code of the day, and that B, the building that was built wasn't, and yet. So it doesn't, Mr Chair. So I want members to be very careful. If they think that local authorities gave that total level of protection, they didn't. And the Act, and well, okay, actually I've heard some people say that we're taking away the protections that local authorities gave us, and they don't. And what I want to well, look, I'm sorry, Mr Twyford, I do get very grumpy at saying local authorities have deep pockets. They only have ratepayers' pockets to dip into. That's who wrote local authorities don't have deep pockets at all. They don't even have pockets. They're dipping their hand into other people's. They dip their hand into other people's pockets. So I want to give confirmation back to Mr Twyford. Section 14F does not change the liabilities of the current Act.
Raymond Ho.
Chair, the Minister ends a chair met very